Baby, we found love right where we are. Golly, folks. Sorry, I was working on the task tracker, and I was just chipping away at it, and then I was like, wait, why am I not recording some of this stuff? Let me go ahead and get some music going in the background per usual. Hold on, folks. Hold on. But I was adding a few things to the task type, and you guys can hear that, I think. Maybe I'm going to put it in the headphones. Just something casual for me to listen to in the background. But I was working on the task type and started thinking about, okay, what else do I need? I needed to do a few things. So I added what did I add? Right now I'm on the back end. I was in the front end looking into the task store. Added a endpoint for updating the task. We'll do that in a sec. But off of last episode, we had this create task modal that's working, right? So we can go ahead and assign task now to do in progress. Boom, 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 and it should query inevitably, but it's working. So we'll run with that for now. That's fine. Can I at least kind of look into it? But I was let's see. Let me actually handle post. So it's still not querying and updating the task, interesting enough, when I post a new task, but we'll figure that out in a bit. Matter of fact, I'll make a freaking thing for it. Reactivity for posting task. Sorry, we got a pop up on the computer here. It's kind of a low priority. We'll put it in to do. That's fine. Let's see if it get reactivity back. Oh, looks like we had that. Don't want to use that for iPhone 4. Get reactivity back. Looks like it's not working now, unless we were updating the database while it was doing it. So we need to add some sort of validations for these forms as well. Update post reactivity. Or we'll say update maybe validation reactivity for post. Low functionality, that's fine. So it's like I didn't get any success response. I have no idea if it worked or not. Looked like it wasn't working there. So that is something we will have to do, but I don't think we're going to do that today. Reactivity, we'll try one more time. So let's post. Let's click low to do. Interesting. Create task. What happened? What happened, folks? What happened? We're going to arrow function into this. See if that... Oh, don't need that up there. But basically, I wanted to start thinking about the other things in the project that we need, like the users and the types, because we're not fully wrapping up the Kanban page, but it's there enough where we could start focusing on the other things. And these are like tiny things I can also do in the background, where I do want to show you guys debugging sessions, but also not too many, where it's just not the most fun content, I think, to watch, versus kind of the newer stuff. Gosh, so it's not working, which is really interesting. So let's go to our task store. Maybe it's something I just changed. Task store, post task. Oh, and I did add this backend URL, so maybe that's something to do with it. I don't think so, but we can double check. Task status name, But I don't know if you guys remember that on the last episode or a few episodes, I've been saying, well, we should make that a variable so we don't have to keep track of it. Undefined. Task status name is coming back undefined. Good to know. Task column name. Target.value. Good to know. We'll default this to do. Let's see. Looked like it worked. Okay. So that looks like it's something to do with our selector, which we're going to make all custom this stuff anyway of inputs and selectors, and then ultimately the form, because that modal is basically a form, and we need to gray out the button and also have success responses, some loaders, things like that. Those are more, I don't want to say basic front-end tasks, but I definitely know how to do them. We might just have to wrestle with them and stuff. But the things I don't know how to do and the things that I'm more concerned about are going to be building out some of the back-end structures and things that I talked with Chester about, where I'm going to collect the user types is what I want to build a type for. I may not know how to do some of the stuff, but I have a feeling we're going to figure it out, right? So that's kind of the point of some of this. Export user, and each user is going to have an ID, which is going to be some sort of string. So similar to our task, let me pull that type up here. We're going to have a user name, string probably, user maybe email, string, and this is all data we can start collecting, decide what we want. Phone number, string, but minimum stuff I think is these two that we need, is the user ID and the user email, or some way to contact them, right? We need something from our clerk, our authentication provider, is ultimately what I'm realizing. But then also, and this is where stuff gets a little bit tricky, is users are going to have tasks assigned to them. User tasks. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting for me. So we're gonna be figuring this one out together, folks. Types, test type, user task, task type, import type, task type, so we need that type from over here because that's going to belong to users, and technically the task assignee is going to be like a user's ID or user's name or something. So the relationships all have to be there is what I'm realizing, and that's where this is going to get a little bit more convoluted, right? And I don't know what it's going to look like with the controllers, but again, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. So user type, and the assignee will actually be a user, which is going to break our app though. But that's good, because let me actually not break the app, and let's fix all the bugs. Let's do a run push real quick just to see all of our issues that we need to configure real quick. So we're going to lint. Let's just clean up the code, make sure we have quality something going on. And then I'm going to start messing with the type. So error, Axios is defined but never used. Base column, let's get it out of there. If we're not using it, get it out. Okay, so base update tags. Base update task, button, here we go. Console log, we'll change it to console error for now. And button chose. Let's delete task, right? Set our type down here. delete task it is. Okay, cool. So that one's done. Button shows. I forgot to change these. Delete task, update task. I don't know if we need this actually, this base update task modal, because I think we're handling it all in the base column. Let me just double check update task modal content. Yeah, I think we are. Okay, so we'll consider deleting that here shortly, but I just want to get the, actually, you know what, we can just delete it now. Otherwise we're never going to. Base update task, let's just double check. Base update task, that we're not using it anywhere. It's being used in the card, but we're deprecating that as well. So I'll delete the card and I'll delete the update task. Just to streamline our project just a little bit, we're just keeping all that material in the column for now. And we might reconfigure that later, but that'll be a decision later. For right now, we want to just be a little bit more lightweight, which we're getting to. So let's go ahead and run another push to another lint and validate our data real quick. And the reason is because I know we're going to break the application. So I need to validate the data, knowing now that it works, so I can see everywhere that we do break it. At least to me, seems to be like the least amount of work, right? So base add task, looks like it was going to be another add task modal. But we can go ahead and actually delete that because we worked around that in a cheeky way. So let's try one more time. npm run push, lint, passes our lint check, looks like, and I think we're going to get to the data now to see if our types are all good. They should roughly be good. Looks like it's good. Okay, so that's awesome because I know for a fact we're going to be breaking stuff if for instance, we turn the task assignee. Actually, we never used anything. We actually never used assignee, so forgive me. We actually may not break anything. But the point is we're going to try to configure this. I think that's the move here, is try to get some of this other data figured out. So let me do this. And user type, we want user ID, email maybe, username, phone number, not required, but it's there. User task, again, not required initially because any user that signs up, they're not gonna have task, but they have the ability to receive task. So I think how the structure is gonna work is task exist in just a backlog or a pool or just the database, but task exists to a project. Because tasks can't just exist everywhere. They have to exist to specific projects, and specific projects are going to be assigned to a specific owner. So I have to figure out all the relationships because this is where the structure of it all kind of comes together. So one way of looking at it is task exist here. Maybe I can pull up a Lucid chart. Yeah, let's maybe do that. Close this out. Oh wait, I can't close that out. We're uploading some stuff right now to the channel. I'll pop that off screen though. Don't want it as a distraction. But things are growing on the channel, so I'm super grateful. Side note on that, I'm just humbled and lucky that you guys watch this stuff. And I know we're still a tiny channel, and there is going to be a day I think when that's not a saying, and I just want to appreciate everyone who's rocking with me, who's starting to think. I know one guy was like, I'm your 9th subscriber, and some people are starting to chime in a little bit. So to me, it's really interesting because I haven't had something like this. Let me pull up this Lucid chart again, but I haven't had something like this where my music career, for instance, I worked so hard at it for a really long time, and it was this slow burn where finally people kind of started to, especially strangers, right? It was this slow burn with people I knew, and I would post music everywhere all the time, and just nobody would really get around to it, even though I felt like it was good stuff, you know, I really did. And maybe I'll link some of it on the channel or something at some point, but I really do think across some of it, there's some immature music, there's some childish stuff, there's some stuff that was bad, and then there's there's some stuff that to this day I'm like, dang, like it's kind of good, you know? Like I don't know. And point is I would put it out to the ethos of the world for time after time, release after release, album after album, and single after single, and I just realistically got no love, you know. So I really do believe God put me in this vehicle as a thing to progress and move forward with, because I don't know, with software it's been a way different experience. And music was like this desolate desert type thing, and then within software I've really, really, really had an abundant experience from day one of software to even this channel is a great example of putting stuff out, and then people are chiming in a little bit, and you know, and listening and signing up for the course and stuff. It's just I don't know, blows my mind a little bit. Okay, so Lucidchart, we have a database. Boom, here's our database, and we'll say these are our tasks. Task exists here, right? And hold on, let me pop this out as well. Here's our client, right? Or I'll say front end. I don't like to use the word client and back end and stuff. I think it's just another unnecessary abstraction, because we all call it the front end. We all call it the back end. So like literally that's why I named my folders just front end and back end, for instance. Because it's like, I know people do client server, but like, I don't know. There's 10 different ways to skin the cat. Just in my mind, it's like, let's just call the front end, and then we could call the back end, you know? But I guess server does make sense and client does make sense too. So, but tomato. So we have task, and task exists with users, and also projects. And at some point, we're also going to have teams. I think we're going to tackle that later, though, so let's not involve that in this conversation. And this is our database, right? And let me just show you guys where's maybe like a proxy looking shape or a server looking shape, right? I want something like this, yeah. And these are going to be our APIs, like server/APIs. So this is roughly how I'm starting to think of the project. And let's go ahead and pop this arrow here where our server and API is going to, like right now, this is all we have is the tasks are connected to the database. We have these arrows connected to functionality on the front end that we can call some of this stuff. So we don't actually have this and this yet. This is kind of our structure right now is we have our server and APIs, like our endpoints, the backslashes that, and if we want to break down the front end, we can break it down even more, right? Where I guess technically the store handles all the front end stuff. And then here's like our client with all the other stuff with it, the pages and all that stuff, right? But effectively in my mind, we'll just bundle it up as the front end. Because we're starting to dissect the system now and starting to build it out. And this is where we're trying to integrate now is the users, because the users need to interact with the server as well, right? So we can query for users on the front end because we're going to have to define teams and things like that. But then I don't know how this relationship is going to work. Does the users need to talk to the task? Does the task need to talk to the users? Because users have task. And as well, we have this other bucket, right? And maybe I'll put these arrows, these will be like questions for Chester, I'm sure, that I'll have. Maybe I can make them a different color. That's kind of an ugly color. We'll make them red. How about that? Just a big old red arrow. So this is something I need to look into is projects have tasks. And then in addition to that, users and projects go together, right? So users have tasks. Tasks are in projects and projects have users and tasks. So projects have users and tasks. Tasks belong to users. And so these arrows aren't correctly oriented. Some of these are two-way relationships, some of them are kind of one-way, which I need to understand, right? But this is something, and as well, the projects also need to connect to the server, which connects to the front end, right? So this is going to be the struggle and a little bit more of a stretch of my current ability right now. I'm not intimidated by it. We're going to figure it out, folks. We are. But being transparent, my specialty, or like where I'm really, really talented, and maybe you guys have maybe picked this up a little bit, is the front end. You know, all these stores, all these concepts, all these lightweight components, or hopefully lightweight components, right? And these other concepts that I'm building out here in the front end hopefully look good. You know what I mean? Like wow, that took us, it took us 10 episodes, but in development time, it took us, I guess, 10 hours, maybe 15 hours, like 2 days worth of work. If you would call me, for a full 9-to-5 job or something, right? Like that would be 2 days worth of work. So that didn't take too much of our time on development speed. But this other stuff I'm a little bit more concerned about. Mind you, I also don't want to downplay that took 15, 20 hours. There was also time sleeping and then editing all the videos. That probably takes the longest time, is editing the audio and videos for these things, and then cutting all the time, or cutting the videos, and exporting is actually the longest for me, because my computer, it takes like 2 hours to export one video at times. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The thing that's relatively relevant to right now is this whole thing. So obviously we're not going to build out the projects right now. That's going to be a whole other thing that we're going to need a flow for, and an onboarding flow. But we need to start considering it, right? So the first thing, I think the first relationship I want to make is going to be users to the server. And then the second relationship we need to make is users to tasks. So I'm trying to kind of do that bundled up all together right now as one mentality. But I guess from steps that I could probably take today is going to be this relationship, is us building users into another database. Seems most sensible. This relationship is going to be a question I should probably ask my dear friend, because he is talented. So, yeah, that's a little bit of the system. If you guys want to learn a little bit more too, or ask some questions on like content delivery networks and how this kind of works, is all of this stuff here. Is there like an outline? Can I outline all this stuff? Draw a circle around it, right? All of this stuff here, the user just sees as the web app. So all that stuff is really just your app, right? And then all of this gets delivered to your user. But your user has no idea about all, they don't even care for all of that, right? And they really shouldn't. And even some, like, you know what I mean, upper management people don't even care. Like they're just like, dude, did you finish the app? No? Okay, then start doing all that stuff. Oh, you didn't figure it out? Okay, well then figure it out, That's kind of been my experience, is like people they don't understand what can go into, and even I don't understand the complexities that can go into an application, right? I'm still learning. And there's even more. So this is like your app, right? But then you may not even have it go directly to your user. Like there's other things you might have first. You might have like users, like tons of them. And you might have a, like a load balancer to divide your app to all of these users, right? Where's that arrow? There it is. Boom. So you might have a ton of different users that exist all over the world, and your application needs to deliver to all of them. And I didn't realize that this is stuff when I first joined like software engineering. This is stuff people are consciously deciding and building systems around. I didn't know. So all these little circles, these represent your users. Right, you got users over here. And I shouldn't just bundle it up as an app. You're going to have, I guess the front end kind of gets delivered. But here's like your proxy, right? Like a load balancer where you can run Nginx scripts and things like this. And that'll distribute people to maybe multiple servers that ultimately deliver them to your database and your structure. So when you start building out applications, let me see, where's our server APIs? Like you might have multiple servers that your proxy will build or excuse me, deliver users to with like different algorithms, like a round robin algorithm. There's like an IP based algorithm. And then all of this will go to your data, like all of your other stuff. And depending on what, you might have different functionality for your application depending on the region that people are in. You might have different features you're pushing to different branches. And instead of pushing a new project to everybody at once, you might just push like 5% of your project through people and see what's wrong with your application first. So all of this stuff, when you start looking at it, and there's even more, like this is just even my rough understanding of systems design. And not to overcomplicate it, but you can have a lot of different things going on, right? All the stuff that we said, like users exist to projects, and maybe users also exist with teams, right? And projects exist with teams. Like there's so many different variables, let's say, because this is roughly at least all of this stuff up to the front end is like definitely what we're going to do. Kind of doing a proxy or containerizing all this and Dockerizing all this application is going to be another consideration, which I need to understand fully a little bit more. But I think this is what Docker would do, is say, hey, we're going to handle all this, or at least put it all in a container and deliver it to your clients equally. So no matter what machine they're on, it's going to have the same experience. And then you can also have these things called CDNs, like content delivery networks, that deliver your application to at least your front end to your users. Right. So this side, right? And this is like roughly where your CDNs, I think, would go. And there's other stuff you can have as well. Like these systems can get much, much more larger, where you can have like a Redis to cache data before it goes to your, so here's like your databases, right? You might have a Redis here. So instead of a user's decision going all the way to your database, maybe you have something that checks your Redis first to see if it's in cache, because it's like quicker, maybe it costs less resources, and then it goes off to the database if, like, let's say your cache doesn't have it or something. So, but looking at this now, you can understand that we spent all that time just building just one piece of this, like just the front end, and let's scale it all the way back down to what we're looking at today. Because that's like what an entire team is doing. A whole software team is and I promise you there's more. I promise you there's more. This is just like my bird's eye understanding of how one might build a service for an application, or a few services for an application. But this is like what we're looking at now, which is our front end with our server, and this is kind of what we built out so far. And now we're going to look to add this bit here. So let's go ahead and shoot for that now. I just wanted to give I know it's a bit of a tangent, but just a side note of of kind of systems design, at least from my bird's eye view. So let's define the types, and maybe we'll kind of neglect this type for right now, but we do want to ultimately consider it at some point. So we have our user, and let's go ahead and build a model now around that type actually. So we're going to go to our backend. Let me close the front end, and database, or our models, excuse me, in users.model. I pulled in the schema for task types because we're going to user, oh no, we don't need that one actually. Let's just delete that. Task type, don't need that either. But let me paste the type down here just temporarily. And this is going to be our task schema. This is going to be our user schema. And mind you, we're like collecting right now like minimal data. And even for these tasks, these are like minimal task types. But by the end of a true like enterprise application, you can have like so many things just associated to your task, or the project itself. For instance, is going to be something like maybe we'll have a report on all the tasks that were completed and who completed them and when they completed them. Like maybe we'll have a page for that down the road, and that can get a little bit convoluted. But again, I've got a good friend who I am going to just bounce these questions off of, and we'll figure it out. So we have user ID, which we're going to make a string. It's going to be required. Every user needs to have an ID. And we'll have a user email, which will be a string. And we won't require it because I think we can sign up through GitHub. I think we can sign up through a bunch of other things. But I think minimally we need two things. So whether it's the user ID or the user, well, we always need a user ID, but we may need the user ID and an email, or the user ID and a username for like GitHub or something. But maybe it is collecting the email. So we'll have to look into Clerk for that. Username, don't need. User phone number, we don't need to require it either. So we'll just copy that object down. User task as well. This is going to be kind of that unknown for the time being. Type, we'll say, is it just any? Maybe we'll just leave it out for now. Let's just collect users from Clerk. That's probably a good start. Let me pop this off. I just don't want you guys to see any Clerk credentials by the off chance, because I know Clerk does regularly show them on their docs when you're logged in as your own user. Okay, so let's get this out of here. We built our model, just what we need, a rough user ID, and then we'll need a controller for user.controller.ts. Already connected to the database. So I imagine this controller, and we also need to build routes for the user. So user.routes.ts. And we'll say user controller. So user router. And I imagine these are all going to be the same exact thing. So we got get. So instead of task ID, it's just going to be user ID. And we're going to export user router. So I think our router's configured. Awesome. And then we need to configure the server file as well. So app.use task, we're going to use users. Const user router. Is that not it? I thought it was. User.routes.ts. Yeah. Oh, spelled require wrong. Love to see it. Love to see it, folks. Okay, so we have our users that are going to get queried. Let's see. We're going to need to model something off the task controller. Let's see, task data. Oh, I don't think we need that anymore, right? We're not using that in our... Oh, maybe we are. using that in our task controller? Yeah, we still are. Task data.find index. Task.models. Not sure if we need that anymore. So we need to clean up some of this stuff and maybe finalize or finish out the task a little bit more. But I do just want to get the user started. So we'll consider that in a moment. Let's just write a task for that. Clean up. What was it? Task data. Clean up. Task controller. Task data. Low priority to do. Interesting. Come on now, come on now. Throw new error, router.js. Why are we getting an error? Require callback function. Users router. Oh, you know why? Because we're not exporting the controller. So let's go ahead and just export something from the controller. Get users. And go back to the user routes. We will go ahead and just comment those out for now. I think that should fire our server back up. Let's see. Mongo, come on, baby. Come on, baby. We don't need the task type in the user controller, but we do need the user type in the user controller. So let's do that while the server is trying to fire back up. Maybe there's an issue. Okay, utils and types, user type, okay. Still, what is the issue here? What did we break? User type is declared, but it's never read. Okay, perfect. So that's not a big problem. Just don't like to see the red underline from ESLint. So user router. We really shouldn't be seeing any errors, I feel like, but we are. Let me debug. Let me think about it. Index.ts. Okay, so we are. Where's the issue? Source TS node. Index.ts. Did we change the nodemon script? Nope. Server.ts. Don't even think we have an index.ts file. Okay. Let's see this a little bit more. Okay, so restarting users task manager. Something the backend route. Some sort of route issue. Routes. App.use. Task router. Users model. Okay, not a big deal. Users controller. Maybe we just delete all of this for right now. Get users and let's go to the controller again, user route. Oh, duh, get users. Duh. There we go. Okay. That would be an issue. Looks like we've configured that. And let's see, come on. And let me read on Clerk real quick on how to. Okay, sweet, our server's back up and running. We do need to add that function as well to requery until there are tasks available. So maybe I'll actually add that really quick. Task store, I believe. base column. I think it's something we do initially, right? Task assignee. Looks like it doesn't exist on this type anymore. It's not assignable to React node. Okay. Gosh, there's so many. If task store dot tasks length equals 0. We're going to set timeout for 5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds to fire off another task store.length. If, how about just if no task in task store? How about that? We just fire off. So meaning I don't have to check for them every time. It should just query and then fire off again, right? That's the idea. Oh, and then you know what? We need to build it as a function. So check for tasks. And then if no task, check for task again. Wait a sec. Okay, I can pull this function out. Don't need it in there. And trying to think, folks. So we need to query just on page landing, right? And then will this work? So if there's no task, we need to fire off this function is basically what I'm saying. Check task. Huh. I'm thinking, folks. So on page landing, we do want to do this, right? Okay, I think this is it. So if there's no task, so on page landing, it's going to check for task. And maybe after 5 seconds, it'll fire off this first function. Hold on. Let's just see if this works before I do that. So the step is step 1. It's going to check for task, and then if no task are there, it's going to check for the task. Can I await a use effect? Is that a thing to do? I don't know if it is, but the idea is on landing, I need to query for task, and then checking for task. It's going to query for task again, and if there's none, wait 2.5 seconds to repeat this function. Wait, and then it's going to query for task again, and then if there's none, wait 2.5 seconds and check for the same function. So it's a recursive thing, but I think that's what we want to do. So let's try this one more time. So queries, okay, I think it's working. Looks like we go here, it queries again. How did we produce that error? I think if we added a task, add new, right? Low to do, boom. Let's see if it queries for task or something. I guess it really shouldn't. So it should always land on page, and then we should never have to query for task, at least to see them initially. It should always check for them. But I only want to limit this to like it only works like 10 times before it says there's a failure or something. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT real quick, and then we're gonna pop over to Clerk and try to collect all that user data. I just didn't want to keep doing with that same issue we ran into every now and then. Trying to query for task. Let's see what ChatGPT says. I'm trying to query for task on page load, and if no tasks return, query for more. But the catch is I also need to know that they have task, because then that would be an infinite loop, right? And query for more up to, let's say, 5 times. So maybe that's why we put kind of a hard limit on it of just up to 5 times, where I don't want it to keep querying and querying and querying. So if I'm a new user, basically, maybe you get 5 or something, or 3 queries. But if the system, and maybe it's 3 seconds each time, so the system doesn't load task in 9 seconds, then maybe we make it like 10 seconds or something, then there's an issue, right? That's kind of a longer time. Looks like you're trying to recursively check for task up to 5 times with a delay of 2.5 seconds between each call. However, the code you have provided can result in an infinite loop if no tasks are returned. That's exactly the issue I was just talking about. It's like it knows, it's so smart. Okay, so I forgot to add, if there's task, retry count, max retry. Okay, perfect. This is why I love ChatGPT. Boom. Figured it out, and we're on to the next. Retry count, max retries 1. Okay, so what does the retry count do? Here I've added the retry count and max retries variable to control the recursion. If the tasks are not returned in the number of attempts it's less than 5, check for task function will be called again after 2.5 seconds. Seems reasonable. Cool. Okay, we'll run with it. That works. And back to the thing we are doing. Base column did have an issue though. Gosh, I just don't want to have to keep doing this. So string users not assigned to React node. Type string user not assignable. Oh, because we changed the type. I knew it would break. I knew it would break. So let's go back to string real quick just to not break everything. We'll figure out that relationship again in the database that we were talking about, the relationship between the two, the red arrow, later. Right now, we are just going to configure pulling user data down from clerk and opening up another database for us where we store the users. So let me pull open Mongo Compass. And I do have an old users thing where I was hashing some passwords, doing some other stuff. But this is all dummy data, and we can pretty much wipe it all. So we'll just save over top of that, I think. So git users, maybe we'll have const post user, or create user rather. And let's import our user type from our schema, user from, or our model rather. And let's see, const user ID. I want to generate the user ID on the back end, and we want to steal it from clerk. So how can we do that? Can I import clerk from the front end to here? Or can I push that to the back end maybe? So maybe we'll need that from rec.params, and then we'll need some sort of user identifier is maybe the thing we want to make. Instead of a user email or user name, maybe it's going to be user identifier, right? Not sure. That would be a good consideration though. Let me just pull this. Because basically we're posting the user. So maybe I'll name it post user. So create new task. Okay. Okay. So const new user equals new user, and boom. User ID and user email. It's all wrapped in a try catch. Nice. Catch error, and sweet. We'll just copy that in. Keep it easy for me. Delete that. Don't need that anymore. Okay, so we have our new user. Oh, you know what we did need though is the res.send user, and then I forget what we do after. Is it res.end or something? Res.send new user. Await new task save. That's what it is. So new user. Okay. I think that'll get us started. We now need to configure some stuff on the front end. Let's see. So our model's kind of figured out, our user model, at least to the two things we could start with, the user ID and user email. That's a good enough start. And then on the front end, let's go ahead and build a user store. Just cruising along, folks. User store.tsx. And let's go ahead and model our task store, of course. Pop it in. That's nice for us. Use state. Don't need all this stuff. We do need types from user though. User type. User right here. Gonna need Axios. We don't need task. Let's just start with one of these where we're gonna use user type. Again, defining everything and fetching, don't need that. Let's just delete all of these actually. We're just gonna use the post. Oh, and I realized that endpoint I missed. So we'll edit that later, not today, not right now. We're on a mission to get these users figured out. So user, set up user. Not sure if we're gonna need that. But I imagine we're going to generate the user ID on the back end. That seems the most sense, but what I could do is use the user. What do we pass to the user controller? The email. That's right. So what I could do is use the user, and we need to change the endpoint to users. User ID. What I could do, or what I actually should do, is use the thing that we get from what's it called? From clerk. We should use the user ID from clerk. Should I rename task type to user? Should I rename task type to task, or user type, or user to user type, so it's all congruent? I guess we'll do it this way. That makes most professional sense, I guess. I suppose no right way to do it, but that makes sense. And then in the entire project, I should name task type to task. But the problem is we have other things named tasks, so I just don't want it to be confused with stuff in the controller, for instance, because it would rename stuff. Like we'd have this named task from the model and the task type named task. So that's kind of why I like to explicitly say task type, or I could say task model even to. Yeah, so we'll stick with what we initially went with, user type here. And then if I go to the user type, we'll change this to user. No right way to do it, just need to be congruent across the stack. That's all. Okay, so we got our post user, and we need to go to our routes, backend routes. Oh, went to the wrong one. Routes, user.routes. And we do need the post user. Okay. User controller, looks like we have it configured, and from our user store, let's see. So we're gonna have user ID, post task, return post task, and I don't think we really need that actually. Maybe not. Set user. Yeah, because I could just pass it directly into the store for every user we need to set. We'll just post it here instead of post task. It'll actually be post user. And we need to make this user store here. Boom. So it looks like we're all good to go, I think. And I think now if we fire this off from the front end, I'm just going to make a button on the Kanban page of create user. Perfectly fine with me right here in our layout. No big deal to me at all. We just want to check for functionality. So we're going to say create user here, and on click, let's go ahead and pull in that store, that user store, import user store. Folks, if this works, I'm going to be just absolutely pumped. Import user store. We need to instantiate it. Const user store. And here we go. User store dot post user, and we need to pass in an ID and a john@gmail.com. How about that? So we have a new create user button, and let me just build a little class name. Background red 500, and we'll have an active scale -90 just so we can see that it's getting clicked. Okay, let's see. Boom, create user. Okay, so let's pull up in our database, and I don't know, is this just gonna work flawlessly from head to toe? Would that just be too easy? You know what I mean? Let's give it a go. I mean, we're looking okay. We've got our controller, we got our routes set up, our model's looking okay. Passing in some strings. At the very least, let me just see if we're getting this to the backend stack. If we are getting into the backend stack, I think that's going to at least start us with a lot of stuff right here. But if it works off rip, that would just be, I would be impressed with myself, to be honest with you guys. But being that this is software, I'm going to say more than likely that's not going to be the case. But let's see. So we're waiting app.boom, boom, boom. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay, we got an error. Schema type user email is required. We are using a user email. Let's see if we posted anything to the database. Nope, nothing to the database. And let's see if it came through. I do think it did come to the backend stack, which is awesome. Connected undefined. No, it didn't. It didn't come to the backend stack. Forgive me, guys. Oh man, I was gonna be pretty hyped. Okay, so let's think about it. So users, these are coming to the user's routes, I believe. So the server coming to the user. I'm just gonna crash everything and rerun the servers real quick. Make sure we're all up to date on everything. Sometimes configurations like that just need a update from the server, but I think some of them do. So we have get users. Do we have a get user? Oh, we don't even have a get function. So that's gonna be gone for now. Let's not confuse our stack. User controller. Let's get rid of the get function. User store. What can I do here? I'm going to console log user ID, user email, and we'll say from store, just so we know. Okay. Let's go ahead and try to create another user. So it didn't work. Let's see if it came to this stack or to the back end. Undefined. Don't like it. I don't like what I'm seeing. And what are we getting on? I'm sure it's something simple. We'll debug everything. Don't worry, guys. I'm not worried about it. I'm just trying to start at step one, which is go to our Kanban page and see why this is not posting, right? Task store.post user. Let's build it into a function over here real quick. Sometimes it's simple stuff like that that can help us debug really well. So handle post user. And we'll say console handle post user. We'll go async and await. Does awaiting follow through the stack? If I'm awaiting in the user store, do I need to await outside of it is the question. We'd love to get even more streamlined with it, you know? So let's see, user store. From store, we're awaiting here. User store is being instantiated. Post user, we're using that endpoint. Let's go back to the page, make sure. I mean, we are passing in these values, so that would just be kind of ridiculous to console log, I guess. So this next step would be from the store, we want to see the user ID and the email get passed through. And then we'll move on to the clerk problem, which is going to be its own problem in itself. So let's get our thing back up and running. Fire. Oh, nice. I love it. I love it. Looks like that recursive fetch function is working. Hopefully it's not still fetching. It looks like it is. So that's a bit buggy. So maybe I don't love it, but we'll edit that in a sec. Actually, let me just go to the column. That'll be a good start for us. This recursive function. Let's see if that just fixes it real quick. No, okay, we're if task store.tasks, we'll just return. Okay, let's see if that'll fix the problem. Then we'll get rid of this. Okay. I think that might have fixed the problem. Okay, sweet. So we're back to what we need to focus on, which is getting users posted into our database. So it's coming to the store. That's good. So it's getting probably sent to the backend now. Nope, undefined. So axios.post. This is our URL though. That's the interesting part. Let me go to the task store. Oh. Task store, and we're going to steal this URL again. And we're going to hard code it in here. I don't want to mess with the M file right now. Not wanting to do that necessarily. Just wanted the URL. I didn't mean to copy the whole line of code. Okay, so could be just a simple URL issue. Let's go ahead and let the server get connected again. It's up and running. Okay, not the URL. Axios post. Maybe it's the model. User model. User schema, mongoose. Gonna delete. Let's not require these right now. Let's just get them working. See if it has something to do with that, right? just trying to get the thing working, right? Like if we can get the thing up and running, then we can add each step. Okay, undefined, undefined, sweet. So it's not the schema anymore. Now we need to identify the next problem. We're receiving those on the front end. We are from store. Okay, so we know it's coming here. I'm going to delete that. We just know it's not getting passed somehow to the controller. So if we go to the user controller, user email, rec.params. Oh, you know what? That would be why. Rec.params instead of rec.body. So let's try this one more time. Maybe it was working the entire time. It just had that one bug. Could have been. Let's see. Let the server connect. And it is. Post. Failed with status 500. Axios error. Internal server error. Bad response. An error occurred while saving the task. We're going to change that error message to saving the user. Again, I'm going to restart the server. Just when we mess with the model and stuff, I could need to be updated. We're going to close the user store. It looks like we're getting it from the front end now to the back end, which is awesome. And let's go ahead and see what we can do. So I'll try to create another user. And we're getting an error. Let's see, internal server error. Use model schema, new user, res.json. Huh. We will throw it to ChatGPT when you know what I mean. Can't figure it out, throw it to ChatGPT. See what our chat can do. Do you see any errors? See any errors here? And I'm looking at the other screen as well, seeing what we have. Await new user.save. I wonder why. Type definitions, validations. Okay, let's see. Here is my model, if that helps. Boom. So no user.save. Let's think. Well, while it's loading, I'll go to clerk, docs, getting user ID. I think we just literally deconstruct the variable like what I did earlier, because clerk has a user object, and you can just, you can literally get all this stuff pretty easy. It looks like. I think we just instantiate the auth thing. So like from the Kanban page. And maybe I'll fire off a function like this when the user lands on the page, or after they come back from clerk or something. Maybe they'll get passed to another page, kind of like a middleware page, if you will, on the front end. And clerk from JS, yep, that's exactly what we want. And we just instantiate it. So I think we just say user ID equals auth, boom, and now we have the user ID on the front end. So if I pass that in here, we should see it at the top of the screen, assuming it's there. And we're still getting issues here. Boom, here we go. Okay, so it worked now. Boom, user ID. Okay, cool. So I could literally splice. Auth can only be used in a server environment. Got it. But we did see the user ID, so that's the good news, right? So we could literally splice that user underscore, and then I think I think just freaking pass it in, right? Like just write an algorithm just to wipe the user underscore, or we can even use it. That's not the end of the world, but I do want that to kind of generate our own string of data, if you will. Easy way to generate a user ID, I guess. That's hashed, and we don't have to keep track of 2 user IDs if we need to manage something in Clerk. It's the same thing in our data. So but let's get back to okay. Response for success is res.status.send 201. Let's get back to our controller or our model. This is what ChatGPT says. So we need to make these unique and potentially pop this here, but I feel like this should be not a big deal to just change the status, right? But the model, that might be what saves us here. Oh, and I wonder if it did create a user and then we're just like creating more non-unique users. Oh, it is. It is. We have a new user, folks. We have a new user. So I think it worked. It just, because we have 11 users in the database now. At some point throughout our shenanigans, it worked. So that's good. That's good. But let's see. Where does the Kanban page exist again? Page layout, front end app. No. Layout, let's go here. Clerk provider. I can say auth. Shame you can't pass props to children. Or can you? It's a good question. Can you pass props to children in React? Interesting. Interesting, right? You can use React.children to iterate over children. And then clone each element with new props. React.clone element. Okay. React.clone element did complete state, I think. Because I do think I want, well, technically we're not in React, we're in Next. How to pass props to children. Here we go. This is what we want. So children, page props. Boom. Header. But I want it with the page. I don't know. I'll have to think about that, but looks like you just clone the child current user. Children with props. Let's see. Return child with props, recursive children map. And then it looks like you build a new object with the props in it. So I have no idea how that would work with auth, but when in Rome, so const add children, child with props. We'll just take children, see if this works, and And we'll say user ID as well, right? I don't know. That's probably not the smartest way to do it. To be honest. Okay. Let's not do that then. But golly, that's cool. Okay. Let's save. Boom. React Kanban. We do need just unique IDs going to the backend though right now. So how about we just say new date. So every time we create a new user in our database, we are looking good, right? We're still getting some issues here. Key pattern, email. Maybe just Mongo not allowed unless there's an email with it. Mongo E100 duplicate key or text. Duplicate key. Okay. Huh. Really should be in its own database as well. Okay. Problem solved. Let's see if we're getting those unique things on the back end real quick. One error, it's because the server wasn't connected quite yet when we sent that request off. Let's go ahead and try it one more time. Boom, I did see unique number, john@gmail.com, and duplicate key, test user email, duplicate email null. Weird, we don't have a model for that though. So I wonder if it's, oh, you know what, for the, I see what's going on. For the simple issue, saying this needs to be unique also. So what I'll do is just append that to it as well. Just to make it unique every time. For right now, obviously every time it should be relatively unique. So let's connect, boom, john@gmail. Weird, john@gmail.com. It should be different. And I also took off the unique things. So let's run start again. Try to collect these users the way we need to. Let's double check the database. Make sure that we are. We did add one though, some way amongst that, which is kind of funny. What is going on? Key value email null, key pattern email 1. So I wonder if it doesn't like that status of it. So I will actually slice just like the first 5 numbers, just so it's unique every time. Fine with me. Or should be roughly unique every time. I don't think that's the issue we're having though for that issue. But we do want to get this configured sooner than later, right? Error. Mongo server error, duplicate key. 1692 is a different user though. So I wonder if it's an error on my end. I probably need to flush the data of of my databases, I imagine. It's probably exactly what I need to do. So, but I will make a database for it, users, with a collection of users. Let's see if this maybe fixes the issue. Off screen, I do want to check the env real quick, the .env file, to see if there's any way in MongoDB we can, configure which database we're uploading to. I don't know if the model and schema kind of handle that though for us. Gosh, this really shouldn't be this much work, I feel like. Let me just go down to the user ID. Let's just get that configured, right? So we'll go to our model, user ID. We won't even make it unique. We will just make it this. And I imagine this should work. It's a basic post request, right? Where we're just sending, and the other thing we need to do, I guess, is take off this from the store. User store. Just because we're not sending that anymore. Okay. So that should streamline us, just one less piece of data. And we're still getting an issue. Okay. So this is going to be a bug that I think I'm going to look into because I think it's something to do with my end on MongoDB, not anything to do with, oh, you know what? I think it is trying to upload to the users that already exist. And it looks like there might be a schema for it. Because I'm looking at the aggregations. Might be an issue with that. Oh, that's cool. And MongoDB has validation rules already baked into it that you can use. I did not know. Again, guys, still just learning tons of stuff. Tons and tons of stuff. So we're getting some errors here. Not too worried about those issues. That's just some UI stuff. Okay, but the post issue is what I'm most concerned about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's something simple. I bet it is, you know. Just can't seem to figure it out, I guess. And I don't know why. Huh. Let's just try this real quick just to give it the old college try. But if not, it's still a relatively successful thing that we started to build out for and build that next thing in the Lucid chart, right? This guy over here that we're slowly constructing. And looks like we're just figuring out this right here, this connection. I think everything else, once we get that connection figured out, it'll just be, update all that stuff too. So I will work on it and I'll probably do some of the front end stuff for the task as well off camera. I don't want to, again, or I don't know, maybe I can do that. I just feel like working on the same thing over and over, people might be like, well, I don't want to see the same task component. We know you're going to build some inputs. So maybe we could park that for now. We're getting some task errors, it looks like. Might have something to do with our function of the recursive one. That seems to not be working. Let's see. Here we go. App listening should fire off. That's basically what I don't want. I don't want users to show up and then the server hasn't started yet, and then they've already queried for task. I want them to show up, and then if the server somehow hasn't loaded yet, that they at least try. They get like 5 seconds of trying to query for task or some sort of number, or at least awaiting it, right? Which I feel like it should. So now that I think about it, maybe on page load we just do this, right? Function async function init. Await, right? And maybe we don't need all this. Maybe all this would be completely redundant, right? If we pull up the controller, let's just kill the server and try to see this. Await. Let's see if when the server fires off, let's see if it'll should be connected though. This is what I'm wondering. Why is it not connecting, right? There it goes. Okay, so maybe we do need that. And let's try it out one more time, and maybe we'll give it max retries 10. So let's crash the server and refresh some tasks. Let's see on client. It's trying, hopefully trying. Let's see. It's connected. Okay, it didn't work. It didn't work, folks. Let's see one more time. We're gonna kill the server and let's try to see. Boom. I don't see its retry count doing anything. So I'm gonna remove this guard clause. Let's see. Huh. Running. Let retry count do this. Okay. In fairness, maybe I'm missing some sort of dependency, right? Something, folks. Let's see. But it still should be trying. It still should at least say running, right? Because that's why we ultimately did it, right? So then when the server loads, boom, it's like, okay, well, now we fetched. So I do think there's some just front-end functionality or dependency issue that I'm looking at here. Or even on the back end, maybe we can emit something that says, hey, the server's ready for you, potentially. Seems like we could figure that one out pretty easy, I think. But I do want to iron these out and just get the front end at least like, functionally working. So let's see base column. So we had that base input component that we were working on right here, base input. And I need the value, and I wonder if I could just do this. Does this work? Can I just pop it in here and then it'll work? No. Okay, so I'll pass in this here. We'll say value or text val maybe. Value string, right? And then we'll have this setter, set value, which will just be the on change. Be value string. Would it be? I feel like it would still be E. And then it actually needs to emit the string, right? So basically I'm just going to pass all this stuff in there, and then in the value, just pass in the value. Oh. And then on the on change, it'll use this set value. So I don't know if that works or not. Set value, cannot find set value. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's just, how can I make a custom put component in React? Let's see. If I say React HTML event, is it? Let's see what ChatGPT says. Sorry, folks. Trying to make it happen. Trying to make it happen. Value on change. Yep, it has all the things, right? On change. It's saying still do on change then. On change, and then I just need to define the types, I think. That's what I would imagine it would be. And then you pass in, let's see, value here. And on change. Boom. Right? Expected this, but got that. And what types do we have for the on change? This is the type it is. Or maybe I can highlight it here and see what type it is. Oh, right here. Tells us. ESLint. Looks like it's throwing an error. Event is defined but never used. Interesting. Disable no unused vars for this. Maybe we'll go for the whole file actually. And then what is this error? Cannot find change event. So I thought it was something to do with HTML input element, right? Huh. Had a little nose thing. Okay, so we still, oh, we can type now. Okay, so did that work? But we're just getting an error here. So looks like I think that worked. Set task name. Let's just put our text back to white. So it looks like we can type here. And I think it's setting the task name because we see it obviously in that first box, and that was the first box we were using. So I'll say user low in progress. Let's go ahead and refresh, see if we get that thing. User, yes, we do. Okay, so it is working. We just need to deal with this little TypeScript issue or some sort of issue here for the prop. But that's awesome because then we can get rid of this. And then I just need to build out something for this. So type change event. Let's see what quick fix it has. Import from React. Is that it? Oh, okay, great. Look at that, folks. So we configured it. We figured it out, I guess. Boom. Let's get rid of that input component, and then we're going to build a custom dropdown. So I will close all these files. Let's go to the front end components, and we'll say base dropdown.tsx. Let's go ahead and pull in our template. Base dropdown. I'm going to delete all this stuff. And basically our options, we're going to need to be able to select a value. So interface iProps. We're going to have choices like options, like some sort of array or string of an array. And then we'll have to have a selected value that gets passed in here as well. And the string of array is going to be, let's see, so we have options, selected value. Okay, great. And I think we're going to need some state. And the state's just going to determine if the menu is open. Const is drop down open, question mark, true, false. And then set drop down open. Be a Boolean value. And we'll start it as false because it's going to be closed. And this is just going to be a custom thing, right? So we're going to make it model our input, so they're going to look the same or pretty much the same. At least the wrapper div, where we kind of configure the looks like I'm passing in a custom class as well, or should be. Maybe if we want to style it or something potentially down the road. So we'll go ahead and do that. Not a big deal. But we do want it to look like the input components. So I don't want them to be these white boxes, obviously. I want them to, let's see, base dropdown, let's import it. I want it to look pretty much exactly the same to the input, but just with maybe like a little icon or something. So custom class looks like we're just passing in that background color. Nice. And base input, I think we do have some padding or some sort of sizing around the inner thing. So maybe if I do P4, should be roughly the same. Let's hope. Yeah, it looks about the same, right? Just need to deal with the opacity on the selector. So the placeholder has a text color of whichever it is. I do think we can customize the text color. Placeholder text color. And we'll just make the text colors the same because I don't want it to be opacity 0. This is going to end up being the selected value. And if not, if there's no selected value, it'll just default to select 1 or something. That's how this will kind of work. And this is actually going to exist similarly to our input component. We'll actually steal this. We'll steal this and we'll actually return this back to padding 2. The reason is because in our input or in our component here, we're going to have a selector that says, it's it's going to say, or excuse me, we're going to have an icon that goes on the right side and lets us know if it's open or not. So this will be like an up arrow, right? These two things need to be flexed. So I'm going to remove this wrapper div. Don't need it. Should be left and right. And this needs to be start. And we'll have it be like a little arrow that just flips up and down. So, folks, but I do think my phone is ultimately going to be running out of battery or memory here because I only have like a limit. And then the other thing we're going to add is obviously the is dropdown open, and this will just be like more options below it. So let me wrap up the episode here. And I'll probably configure a lot of this. Let's see, globals. Custom placeholder looks like we're going to rock with this type of color. So then I can put that into here. Or excuse me, into the base input. Let's see if that'll work. Doesn't like the fragments that I've dropped somewhere. Oh, right here. Okay. And basically I'm going to have some sort of selector where I can quickly, when I click this, it'll set the drop-down menu to the opposite of is drop-down open. And it'll show more options, and we'll do it underneath. We'll absolute position them. And we'll obviously conditionally render this class as well to if it's open or not. If it's open, we'll do something. If it's not, we'll rotate it the other way. So I'll show that real quick. Is drop-down open. So, like rotate 180 degrees. So this is what it'll be. I don't know if you guys see how it's and we'll make it transition so it looks good. Let's see. So do you see how it opens and there's more options below, and then we'll make the options look similar to the thing, and in the options this is where we're going to map through them as well. So that's going to wrap up today, I think. Let's see, option, boom. Perfect. That is going to be great. So then in our base column, let's go back there. I can pass in some options, and let's just pass in an array of option 1, option 2, option 2, option 1, option 2. Great. It's coming along great, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up though, so I don't lose this episode. That would be a bit of a bummer. We're an hour and 43 in, and it's kind of been a fruitful episode. Let's see if that adjusts the flex call of these things. No, need to do it here. But yeah, so this is roughly how it's going to look. And then, oh, I did need it. Looks like I did need the wrapper. And then finally, I think we'll do a on click. Oh, here we go. And we need to select an option would be the final thing. So const select option set selected option, right? Selected option. There we go. Gotta love it. English, you know what I mean? And we'll say selected option, not select. Sorry guys, I'm cruising. Cruising. And that'll be selected value, I guess. And the selected value, we'll have to admit that upwards, I think. Yeah, we will. I'm thinking. But basically with this on click here, we'll have like a button or something that can set selected option to the option. Hope that kind of makes sense, guys. Let's see. Button missing key prop, not a problem. We'll give it an index, and it'll say index doesn't exist because it doesn't. Now it does. And boom. And we'll need to do something with the selected option. So I'll just put it here for now. But basically we'll have option 1, 2. I can select option 1, option 2. And it should actually be pretty much this value. But we have to emit it upwards. So option 1, option 2. Option 1, option 2. And then this actually will end up being a function where it closes the menu too. Handle option select. And maybe we'll say option string. And basically it's going to do this function right here. And one more thing, which is close the menu. So set drop down to false. So every time you click an option, it should shut the drop down. Boom. Option 1, option 2. Boom. Just like that. And we just style up the buttons. BG background primary, right? Maybe have a little hover effect of opacity 50. Sorry guys, I'm like cruising right now, just trying to cursor pointer, trying to make it make sense. Maybe it's background secondary. Oh, didn't spell background right. That's what it was. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's going to be something like this, right? Where you have option 1, option 2, boom, option 1, option 2, option 1, option 2. And that way, whatever options we pass from the parent, we will have them. So this will be like our low, medium, that thing, right? For the priority. So I think I'll do that then for the next one, right? But let's wrap it up here. I'll polish this modal up first thing in the next episode. But great thing. We talked about some architecture, kind of built the foundation for creating a new user. Looks like we're polishing up some front end modal stuff, and yeah, looking forward to the next episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.